Hello, my name's Russell and I'm a wedding videographer from the UK. Today I wanted to show you some tips on how you can customise your Lumix S Series camera for wedding videography. I like to shoot my weddings in slow motion at 50 frames a second. I find that 50 frames a second gives the perfect balance between slow motion, but also it's not too slow that it can still look really cinematic. Using the custom mode dial on the top of the camera where you've got C1, C2 and C3, I like to save my individual settings so that I can just switch between those throughout the wedding day. So one of them will be slow motion, one of them will be 4K slow motion, and the other one will be 25 frames a second. So the first thing to do would be to switch to the movie dial. This is where we're going to set the custom settings for C1, C2 and C3. From there I'm going to go in and customise my frame rate, my resolution, and my picture profile settings. I like to shoot in natural profile, which I've tweaked slightly just to reduce the contrast and the saturation. I like to turn the saturation, contrast and sharpness down a little bit just so that I can bring those details back in post if I want to. I really love the skin tones of the natural profile, as well as the dynamic range, and the low light performance is really good as well. Because I'm going to be shooting in a variety of different lighting conditions, I like to set a good middle ground for the white balance just so that I can make minor tweaks later on if I need to. Once I've customised the picture profile, I then need to make sure that my shutter speed is right for the frame rate that I'm shooting. If you're on the S1H, you can actually enable the shutter angle mode. That way you don't need to worry about which shutter speed you're going to be filming in, because the camera will just calculate that for you. One option that's really handy if you shoot manual focus is the focus peaking. So you can enable this within the menu. This will basically give a coloured outline as to which parts are in focus, which you can see on your monitor or the viewfinder. And as I'm turning the focus wheel, I can actually see which parts of the scene are in focus with the coloured outline. So once I'm happy with the settings that I've chosen for the picture profile, the white balance, the frame rate, the shutter speed, and the resolution, I'd then go to the menu. I'd click on the spanner icon and then click on the settings cog and go to save to custom mode. From here, you can have the option to save to one of three settings. So each one of those corresponds to the dial on the top of the camera. I also actually like to rename mine so that I know which setting I've actually switched to. When you're shooting video, you want to make sure that your shutter speed remains the same for that cinematic motion blur. But when you're outside shooting wide open, that can often mean that your image is overexposed. So I recommend that you pick up a variable ND filter. This actually just screws to the front of your lens. You can then adjust the exposure just by turning the ND filter just like that, and that way you can maintain a shallow depth of field even in bright conditions outside. So those are some of the settings that I use to customise my Lumix S Series cameras for my wedding videography. So I hope you found them useful, and thank you for watching.